Kirby will say our invocation, our pledge today. Thank you, Mr. Kirby.
As we bow our heads, I wish that we would remember the folks in the Gulf Coast that have been through several rounds lately, property loss of life, the people in California with the wildfires, going through a lot of hard times right now, and for all those people who suffer from indignity and disrespect. In the Lord's name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Roll call.
Bibby.
Present.
Ard.
Here.
Hill.
Here.
Kirby.
Here.
Agenda items will be acted upon if they meet the guidelines necessary to perform essential minimum functions of the governmental body for a matter of necessity to respond to COVID-19. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kirby, a second by Mrs. Hill. Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
4-0. Resolution 2287, purchase of hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes for Decatur City Schools from Home Depot Pro. Charles Booth.
Yes, ma'am. Charles Booth, purchasing agent for the city. This is a purchase under the Omnia contract. It's a cooperative that's authorized for our use by the Examiners of Public Accounts. This is hand sanitizer and disinfecting wipes for the school system, and it's contingent upon approval of reimbursement under the CARES Act.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Kirby and have a second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion, please. No discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Resolution 2287 passes with a vote of 4-0. Resolution 2288, approved bid number 20-024 for plexiglass divider shields for Decatur City Schools. Charles?
Yes, ma'am. These are to go on the desk to separate the children with the clear plexiglass dividers. We issued bids, invitation to bids for this. We got 11 responses. Some were non-responsive because they couldn't meet the deadline for installation, which is October 9th, which is a pretty tight schedule. Others did not include the information as far as the cost of installation. We needed that split out just in case reimbursement may pay for the product but not installation, so they were dropped. And some just basically didn't provide what they needed or what we asked for in the bid. You have an explanation of each of the vendors evaluated by the school system, so we didn't put a vendor in the resolution, but we recommend awarding to the lowest responsible bidder not to exceed $125,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kirby, a second by Mrs. Hill. Discussion?
I have heard from members of the school board that want to express their appreciation for us taking care of this and partnering with them.
Likewise.
And this is also contingent upon approval for reimbursement on the CARES Act.
Any more discussion?
Well, you need to decide who you're going to award it to.
We're doing it not to exceed
What do you think?
25. Herman said we needed to decide.
You got to name somebody who's going to award this to conditionally.
Well, can we say the two vendors and they're going to pick the one they like?
That's not the way the bid law works.
Can you put in contingency?
Well, we can say that we'll award it to a particular one, the low bidder, and if they're not satisfied with that vendor after they get into further discussion, since it is a conditional, then they can come back and y'all can address that.
Well, we have several vendors, two of which are here in Morgan County.
Yeah, I believe the two they're looking at, Christie, is One Source, which was $99,790, and the other
Yes.
is Decatur
Printing Solutions.
$2218.50. Did they say Decatur Printing did the last ones?
No.
No, that was the one that was so high. So you have not looked at both of these yet? Charles, both of those did include installation and
Yes,
all of
ma'am.
that.
They
Did it
may.
give a grade of plexiglass? I know that one, it was really not plexiglass, it was plastic that we,
Mr. Satterfield with the school system had seen what Decatur Printing has, and he agreed that it was good, but he hasn't seen what One Source has.
is One Source local?
Hartsel.
Herman, I thought yesterday we talked about we could do, on contingency of the state, saying it would be reimbursed. So in that case, if we word it that way, do we have to award, do we have to say a vendor's name?
Yes, you gotta tell him, he needs to know at some point who to award, who to issue the purchase order to.
Well, he'll probably know today, but I mean, that's,
Well, you have a low bidder, then you have the next bidder. If the low bidder, and you have it in documentation that they meet the bid specs, the only question we got is the installation part. And the city, talking about us, we can't decide that issue. All we know is that the low bidder is the qualification. So,
well, I cannot make a motion, but I will tell you what I would like to see done then. Since Decatur Printing is in Decatur, and it is within the 125, and we would probably get a discount on that, yeah, 5%. I'm gonna hope that somebody will make a motion that we just go with Decatur Printing with the 122.18, 50.
Herman, we have to be within 3%,
you
don't we?
must understand
Five.
the bid law as a
Five.
percentage, and you've got to stay within that. You gotta tell the low bidder why you're not awarding it to them.
Well, I'll tell you, because the bids range from 59,000 to 250,000 yesterday. It was a vast majority of, but they weren't the same products. Some were plastic and some were actually plexiglass, so,
But the school system says that they meet the bid specs. They only had some concerns. I'm talking about the low bidder.
he did not meet the bid spec. It was not
No, I'm
installation.
talking about the one choice. But that's the.
One
that's the-
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
All right.
They're gonna go talk with the vendors and everything else. Can we schedule a special meeting for Monday, 15 minutes before the work session, and we'll have this all ironed out for the second resolution?
We can, but is that gonna do anything to your deadline?
Well, I don't have confirmation from the state yet on reimbursement, and it's already Wednesday. So I don't know when I'm gonna get that. If I don't have it by tomorrow, I'm gonna go back to Dwight and see if he can go through the school system process through the state to get to the revenue.
Well, we actually can pass the act in accordance to seeing if they do say that we can use that. So that we can do. It's just, we need to know either Decatur Printing or One
Right.
Source.
What is our-
Your resolution is conditional upon us getting reimbursed. That's no problem.
That's a given.
Yeah, we can-
The school system needs to tell us why we shouldn't award it to 20,000.
No, not to exceed 125, yeah.
There's a
What is it-
$20,000 difference.
What's our deadline to act on this?
Well, they need them in the schools by the
They
9th.
want them in the schools by the 9th.
That's
So it's an
getting-
installation deadline, not a allocation deadline.
Installation as well as getting the material.
Right, but I knew that there was a deadline by which the money had to be allocated to.
Now, that's not a factor.
So what you're recommending at this point is from a Wednesday to a Monday delay, and we can get it handled on Monday.
Correct.
And I think that's the best thing to do.
If, what Herman's saying is bid law, so we might be,
Yeah,
our hands may be.
We want to accommodate them, but you gotta tell purchasing agent who,
He can't have two choices, he's got to have a choice, right?
well, you can put there that if the person, well,
That's contained in the
I
bid.
guess what we're saying is we could go ahead and award it to, additionally to the qualified low bidder. And if the school system has concerns about that, they can share that with the city council.
Then we could change that
And
Monday.
come back on Monday and change it. How is that? And if otherwise, it goes on.
So at this time, I'll amend my motion to the low bidder contingent upon them meeting all the qualifications.
The low bidder out of all of these bids?
Yeah, out of the five that are shown to us here. These are
The one source.
these are the six that you said were qualified, right?
Correct.
So we're looking at One Source and
One
Hartsel.
source.
Well, there's
And if they
actually-
don't meet it, then we have to redecide.
Well, if you're looking at lower, the Supply Corporation was 85, and then T360 was 65, so they're actually.
But they
several
didn't, meet all the
They're considered
qualifications.
non-responsive because they didn't meet the specifications, or they didn't provide installation.
Charles, did you provide them with a list of what the school system provided y'all, told you why these do not meet the spec?
Yes, sir.
So what choice is the first one that meets the spec?
The bid tabulation that was provided to us is for all those that appeared to be qualified, right?
Correct.
And I'm okay if they make the decision that the low end can't provide what they want, but by law, in my opinion, that's what we have to do at this point.
Or wait until Monday.
Either that or wait till Monday.
Right.
I'm happy either way.
Well, I think Herman has a good proposal, is approving
The 99?
one source today, let the school talk to one source. If they're not satisfied, then they come back Monday.
Sounds
to
good.
indicate a permit.
Okay, so we will amend this.
I like that option.
So we amend this to say one source. And their bid was 99,790.
Yes.
It's fine.
All right.
And-
Do you have that correction, Stacy, on there? Perfect. Thank you. I have a motion. Oh, I do have a motion. Mr. Kirby, Ms. Hill has a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Art. Art,
I abstain.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
And Resolution 2288 passes 3-0 with one abstention. Now we'll go to other business. Oh, this is- David, do you want to come up if you're going to speak, or? All right, council. What Herman and I received yesterday from Mr. Childers was a letter that I don't know that I have right in front of me. David, do you mind reading it?
I just hit the high points for you, Ms. Page.
Okay.
What we done is we prepared a letter yesterday, instead of looking at collateral as far as in lieu of the bond, in collateral that First Response, our healthcare investment group, has come together and made a good faith offer of entering into an agreement of $25,000 that we would pay the city of Decatur in the event that we ceased operation without a 30-day notice. So we'd give the city a proper notice in the event anything happened such as that. And at that point in time, if we violated that, we would pay the city the $25,000.
So this is the thought for me, council. Well, there's several actually amendments we're going to have to make to the ordinance that is going to require, without unanimous consent, is going to require two readings or two sittings before we vote. The section 332, which is the original, the bond issue, the $2 million, that is going to have to change. Of course, we know that. And then section 9, Herman, as I was going through this morning to double check, section 1317, 9, it refers to the bond, the liability insurance coverage or performance bond required in this chapter has been canceled or reduced, blah, blah, blah. That would have to be amended too. That is
Which one is that now?
section 317.9. So that would just need to be amended because there would not be a bond in the amount of $2 million.
Where's 317, I'm sorry.
In the
In the-
ordinance.
It's in the ordinance, it's just, if we're gonna amend the 2 million, you have to go through the ordinance and see what,
Or in 9.
Yes, there you go.
Okay, thank you, I thought,
And then 332 would be the other. So it is going to require an amendment of the ordinance anyway. I guess my question is to council, are you satisfied with the proposal from Mr. Childers with the, and I would also like to see in there, Herman, when we change the 332, that it do give, that whoever's our provider give at least a 30-day notice of them leaving. We do that in every contract with vendors, and I'm not sure why this one did not have that. It has that nowhere in it, which it is necessary for that to be in there. So somewhere it needs to say in there, we need a 30-day notice if someone's intending to leave. So,
Paige,
yes,
was that 25,000 in the, that David mentioned?
Yes, I can read you. Let's see, I want to propose a solution to the bond issue. I propose the Healthcare Investment Group Incorporated enter into an agreement with the City of Decatur as a good faith effort with the following. Healthcare Investment Group Incorporated will, in writing, will agree to pay the City of Decatur the sum of $25,000 in the event that Healthcare Investment Corporation Incorporated ceases operation without a 30-day written notification. Healthcare Investment Group has no intentions of discontinuing our operations in the City of Decatur. We want to build a trusting relationship with all leaders and departments within the City of Decatur. David Childers.
Do you mind stating for the record what the...
I will not support that. I do not believe that $25,000 is sufficient to protect the needs of the city.
Okay, do you?
I was just wondering that myself, and even if they do, I mean, obviously, hopefully it wouldn't happen again, but if what happened with the last group, I mean, how do we know we're even going to get that $25,000? I mean, that could just be a lawsuit that takes the city a while to get.
Well, that's.
You're absolutely right. It would,
Unlike
would
the
have to
bond.
go to court.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I need your proposals that you would be in favor of.
Hey, yeah, that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm asking.
I get that you're asking that. I just heard what he had to propose. I think that we need to either be able to think about that option. I mean, we just discussed this a couple of days ago, so it may not be that we have a decision today. I mean, are you...
It is not impossible to get a bond, and he may not be able to get a $2 million bond, but he can sure get a lot bigger than $25,000. So I'm not going to be in favor of anything that's going to, if they were to just up and move in the middle of the night, the city would be in a dire need. And I'm not going to support anything that doesn't protect the city under that scenario.
Okay,
So I wonder how much of a bond he could get.
Let's not lose focus where we were, where we are, and where we're going. First thing, the vast majority of people who are requiring a bond are paying a subsidy. The bond is primarily to recover a subsidy they would have lost, okay? We're not paying a subsidy. And secondly, the wording on the letter from the company where we solicited a bond didn't say it was the amount of money involved. They said it was the terms and conditions they objected to. And the unyielding authority that the city had in the ability to reach out and grab that money.
and it actually also said that he did not provide all the financial records that they needed to give him one, if you want to be fair.
And Mr. Childers, can you comment on that statement about financial records?
Yes, I can. Our financial records is not what is holding up getting a bond. Both with the Valiant company that the city uses, if you'll review the email that Ms. Carey sent, it says that the underwriters say that they're opposed, in other words, to the strong forfeiture language, okay? The next thing we look at is the Harrison McKay, the same thing. They all have the same access to the underwriters, the same 4 or 5 underwriters. It's not the financial ability of First Response or Healthcare Investment Group. It's the fact that the ordinances are that the strong forfeiture language, and one letter of the Harrison McKay even stated the death penalty. We have no companies that will even entertain anything. I did notice that there was a comment made by Mr. Alexander that about the finances, that he had some information about that. I would ask this time, if the city has anybody that has entertained this offer, that they give us that offer, and we'll be glad to look at that. But through 1 year of searching, there is nobody out there that will even let us walk through the door after they read the current ordinances that are involved.
Okay, I did read the email, David, and it did say that you didn't provide one source of financial information they needed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
We
it did
never
say-
got to that point. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just so we're clear.
Yes, ma'am.
So Christie and Chuck, what I need from you is, that I have Mr. Childers here, is if the 25 is not going to do, and you know the 2 million is not going to do, then where are you on a proposal?
Well, I don't have an answer for you for that today, but I'm happy to have a work session to discuss it as a group. I mean, I don't have an answer for you today with regard to that. I have some questions, So I guess if we want to postpone this,
Are the questions
then I'll
for
do some more research.
Are the questions for Mr. Childers? Because since he's here.
No, not Mr. Childers. I don't have questions for him. I have
Just wanna make sure since he's here.
other questions for our legal and
Herman, and I'm just gonna say it, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm gonna say it on camera. Folks, this is the deal. They can get a $50 million bond. It doesn't matter. If they file for Chapter 11 or 13 bankruptcy, the city of Decatur's not gonna get a penny of that money. So,
Okay.
well, we'll get in line. We'll get in line to get that.
No, I'm sorry. That's why we have a surety company that's not gonna be bankrupt, that will back whatever happens. That way we can draw on that. The $2 million, I was gonna make this suggestion. I think, and that's what I thought we were doing anyway, is for Mr. Childers' attorney. Let's see, my thought is, let's talk about what's available in the market. It may be that there is no amount of bond that y'all are able to get, for whatever reason. But the bond, I think, is one problem, the amount of it.
Okay.
I think that's a problem. I can see how that would, my suggestion is gonna be that I get with this company, let's see what's available in the market. If there's not anything available in the market, we'll just have to come back and say, nothing available.
And let me point out that Monday,
But reduce the bond amount.
Monday, we extended the CPNC from midnight tonight till October the 5th. And the odds of you finding significant changes in this bonding ability between now and October the 5th is very, very small.
Well, we're gonna have to, if we don't do that, we're gonna have to extend that, so I agree. But the thought would be, what size bond, let's just see what's in the market. Not $2 million, we know is probably not, at this point, feasible. I understand.
Okay. So Herman, you're saying the $2 million bond, you're good with the no to the $2 million bond, right?
You what?
You're saying probably the $2 million bond needs
That's
to
my
come.
understanding,
Okay.
that may be a challenge.
Okay.
If it's not, we'll come back and say, with proper credentials and documentation, it's available. I truly want to find a way to help us get where we need to be.
And based on the
Thank you,
scenarios that
Ron.
we've already identified exist out there, if the city wants to start paying a subsidy, I'm sure you can get a $2 million bond.
And then the other thought would be, I think if we're not going to get a performance bond backed by surety, we need to at least have a cash deposit of some nature with the city, because that's why we were doing that, because we want to have security. Because Ms. Beebe is correct, if for some reason you leave town, or it's just feasible for us to have some protection behind your promise. But we will work on that. The main thing, let's just see if there's a bond available in the market and what amounts are available.
And if I may, we're kind of up against a timeline here at this point in time. As you said, our original CPNC expires at midnight tonight. And when we look at this, I think first response is, in addition to what you say, Herman, I think first response has done its due diligence on this. I would say that when these ordinances were authored, whomever authored those did not perform a due diligence, because if that would have been the case about a bond, then when the bond issue first come up, the first ARB meeting after the ordinances were passed, someone would have stood up and said, well, we've done our due diligence and this company said they would bond it. I think Chip said that he thought, and thought is not what we operate on. If the city of Decatur wants to continue to extend, Chip Alexander said $2 million was what he'd have to pay every 6 months for a service to come in here. That's $11,111 every 24 hours. We applied for our CPNC. We met the demands that was within our ability, and nobody has proven from the ARB department or EMS or CHIP that a bond is available. So our standpoint is this thing keeps dragging out, and we have money invested, a lot more than $25,000 that's invested, and without us knowing an outcome, we're basically living day by day. We've got to get started buying new trucks, and the longer we put that off, or the longer we put this venture here off, is the longer it's going to be before we can make those capital investments, reinvestments back into the company. And I would just urge everybody here to consider the time restraints that we're under. It's not our fault, it's not first response's fault that we're here today under the time restraint.
What is the date that 911 wants you to sign a new contract by?
October 1. That's when their fiscal year begins.
So there's no doubt, what I'm sharing with you is my goal is to expedite this process.
Yes, sir.
Okay? That's my commitment, to try to get us where we need to be. And I understand what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
That's my commitment. So but I guess I need some idea of where the council is as far as the bond of mine, I'm talking about in the long run. I just don't know where that is.
That's what I was asking. Anybody got an idea?
Well,
Well, what Herman just suggested.
He asked y'all's thoughts.
Well- but we can do it this way. I can see what the market has, what amounts are available.
Yes, thank you.
And then we'll report that back and report it. See, I just, on the meeting, see, you have legal counsel, and I hesitate, I want legal counsel, either give me, Christian to talk to you, I want them to be part of the process, okay? Because that's what it requires. I shouldn't be interacting with you as legal counsel, not being available. Now, they can say, it's okay to talk to Mr. Childers, and that's fine, because I want to get us where we need to be.
And I do too, before October 5th, obviously, that's what we're pushing for, is to get the CPNC signed on October 5th, rather, so we could go ahead and start with our plans for the business plan for the next 5 years. And that's what we have to offer, Ms. Page, at this point in time, and I think that's, on our part, that's a good faith. And as you did state, if there was the only way we would leave Decatur would be in the event of a bad financial issue. And you are correct about the 7, 11, or 13 on that. Everybody would get in line at that point in time. And on a bond, you're going to indemnify the bond, correct? And we would never assert our company to indemnify the bond. And so there's another hurdle that we're stating.
Okay, so
In the front.
since we're here and everybody's online, so you're saying y'all are not going to entertain the thought of a bond?
I don't think that a bond, first of all, is available at any amount
Okay.
with the current ordinances. A bond requires a contract. A CPNC is not a contract. And then with the ordinances, with the forfeiture language that is involved in there, that's probably the largest issue of even getting the underwriters to open the door to start the discussion. And you're talking about, and Herman knows the process, once you get an underwriter agreed to take a further look, then they're going to have to be, the underwriters, not first response healthcare investigator, they're going to have to be in negotiations with legal on how you're going to do. We're looking at a long process if it's even available.
No, I agree.
Ms. Bibby, I'm not going to be held hostage by a threat for them not to do something. So I'd say at this point, let's just go out for bids.
I don't know how we would go out for bids and get specs, I'm not sure. Chief Thornton's here, he and I spoke the other day, paramedics right now are not available. Any of the ambulances anywhere around Decatur are strapped for what they have now and are not meeting their own needs. I don't know that that can happen. We could put it out there, but I'm not certain you will get any responding.
Well, we won't know.
That's like this council. That's
Chief
true.
Thornton, Chief Thornton.
I think that
what-
this council-
We have had the conversation about paramedics being in shortage.
Yes, ma'am.
It's also my understanding,
I'm not disagreeing that you didn't have that conversation. Can I speak just for a minute?
That's Charles talking. Yes, go ahead.
go ahead, Christie.
Look, I understand if we can't do a bond, then okay. That's not set in stone with me. I think this council had agreed that because of what had happened to this city years ago, we were going to try to be proactive in case that happened again. Herman, are you aware of what maybe other municipalities have done? Or do they not concern themselves with that, maybe because it hasn't happened to them before? Do you have any idea?
I truly do not, because that's been focused on by other people. I can find that out, but
And
you've got different scenarios.
Sure.
Sure. You've got, you probably have that, Rick.
I can tell you, Christy
Different
Hemsey,
scenarios, Montgomery and Birmingham and all them, there's different scenarios.
Christy Hemsey is owned by Huntsville Hospital, and so they do not do that, and that covers all of Madison County. They do not require anything because they actually own that company.
And Ms. Page, I can add some light to this. You see bonds in the EMS world where your ambulance operator is operating in unincorporated areas, rural areas. You mostly see this in lower Alabama, South Alabama, where I'm not going to name the service or a county, but I do know of one particular service. The county gives them a free ambulance every year and also pays them $100,000 a month. And they're required to have a $100,000 bond. So if they get their check and they skip out the day after, then their $100,000 is there, but they're getting subsidized. The ambulance stays in the city's name until such time as their one-year commitment is fulfilled. So in the bond world on the EMS, the ambulance service is getting something from the person that would obtain or would be assured, if you will, the money from the bond. This is just not the case here in Decatur. And I
Okay.
don't think it's ever going to be the case.
Yeah, and I can get,
Because we're not asking for a subsidy. Please don't misunderstand. We're not asking for a subsidy.
you could go to Alabama Code 1187.3, and it describes it in detail and tells all about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. I think regardless that, I mean, even, I appreciate him offering $25,000. I think either way, I mean, he just said the only reason that they would go out of business is because of terrible financial situations. So I don't think that they would probably have $25,000 to give us if they're already mismanaging their money and have to go out for that reason. So kind of seems like, I don't know what other option there is if you're asking me right today, Paige.
I don't think that, I don't think that I know of any either, and I've been looking for about a year and a half, so. And Herman, you can look if you don't mind, but, I don't.
Well then, I mean, if there's nothing else, I mean, that's what I'm saying, like what are, every other municipality is in a different situation. I mean, are we just asking for something because it's happened to us before and we were left in a pinch? I mean, now,
I think
I mean,
that's probably
obviously.
the original reason, I mean, that was spoken about when we adopted this new ordinance, was we'd had bad luck in the past, and we were kind of caught off guard, and I've spoken with Chip, he is not here, he's on vacation this week, about if that were to happen, that circumstance, what would we do in that emergency? And we do have a contingency plan, but that is not in writing, and those two, there are two ambulance companies that said yes, in that circumstance, they would come into the city and they would run our calls until we could get a service in. They would require a fireman on board every ambulance in the city, and they would not stay, but they would not put that in a contract, they would not put that in writing, which concerns me. I don't know that we can really depend on that either, so that's the question too.
Well, and I realize that Mr. Childers has a business, and, you know, I've talked to, I think we both had Paige, to Nat Richardson when he was at the hospital, and obviously if this happened, hopefully, Lord willing, this wouldn't happen with David's business, but, you know, at that point, if something did happen, I mean, the hospital system would prefer to run the ambulance. So, I mean, that would have to be another option. I'm not advocating to put a small business out, or any business out of business, but, you know, if there's not any other options and this happens, that's kind of the unknown future. We don't know what will happen. Hopefully, David's business will thrive and we can continue to use their services. But if something did happen, then we might have to look at working with the hospital like Hemsey.
Again,
That's what they do with Hemsey.
let's not lose our focus on this. Nat Richardson and David Spillers have their own axe to grind on these issues as far as their opinion on those things.
Well,
Secondly, we've got a hammer we're holding over this company's head because of circumstances this company did not create and did not do. The other perspective to understand is, in my belief, very, very few companies under these ordinances will ever want to come into Decatur.
Hey,
So-
Christie, when I spoke with Nat and also their attorney for Himsey, they actually, all they wanted in the city of Decatur was the transport from one hospital to the other, or from Decatur General or Decatur Morgan to Huntsville Hospital. They did not want, they had no interest in the day-to-day ALS, BLS calls. So Himsey would not come in for everyday calls, for like emergency calls. They didn't want that. They wanted the transport from one hospital to the other, and from both our hospitals to the Huntsville Hospital campus. That was all they were interested in.
Okay, let's see, my goal with the artist here is to figure out a way to perpetuate what y'all are, your service, okay? That's what my focus is.
Mhm. And if I may.
That's what I want to do.
Sure, and Herman, if I may. After speaking with Miss Beebe here, after what has transpired since June the 12th, first response really doesn't have to make a good faith effort for anything. But we felt like it would make that comfortable feeling to show that we're here to stay, to make that $25,000 good faith, okay? But as it stands right now, there is nothing holding us to even offer the $25,000. I think we could all agree with that. We're just trying to get the CPNC completed so we can start our day-to-day operations normally. We've got employees, and I will share this, we've got employees that are ready to walk out the door right now just because of what's happened. You've first put a life limit on a company by putting a one-year CPNC application. We've had to raise salaries. You know how difficult it is for paramedics. We've had to raise salaries to get people to stay just this year because they knew this date was coming. And to continuously prolong the date of signing the CPNC puts the company in jeopardy, not only financially, but in jeopardy as far as employees as well, because they do pay attention to these meetings. I would just like to throw that out there because, I mean, that's a major factor. You can't run an ambulance service without a paramedic.
Let's just see what we can come back with. Give as much information to the council.
Well, Herman, you're gonna need their thoughts. I mean, that's why we're here. And if, Mr. Armisil, do you have thoughts for Herman? He's looking for some direction.
I thought he was gonna go out and see what it would cost in the market.
He said, well, and David said that he wasn't gonna do a bond, so now he said he would look at other avenues. He can do that. I'm not quite sure. You know, he can do that, I assume. Herman,
Remember, the particular requirements for bond right now were not set by first response. They were set by the city. That is the city's obligation to fix that.
I agree with that. That's why I thought the Herman's going to investigate that. Just like David said, yeah, if we'd have done our due diligence prior, then we would have known that. So that's, just like Chuck said, I'm looking to Herman to say, okay, we need to lower that amount, and then Mr. Childers can get one, or we need to remove it. I mean, I appreciate the good faith of $25,000, but he has already said if he goes out of business financially, he surely ain't going to be able to pay that $25,000, and we're just going to get in line with everyone else. So regardless, we probably should just take it out and just trust that he's going to do what he says he's going to do.
And I'm fine with that. I'm fine if the 25,000 offer stays there, whatever gets the problem resolved between now and October the 5th.
Herman, if you could,
I agree.
if you could think of some other options other than bonds, get back with us Monday, I guess. I don't know, you know, other than
Well, I think
sign a
what,
contract, I'm not quite sure what that would.
Well,
well, I appreciate you asking Paige, Mr. Childers, if he was not going to pay a bond, because that's what, I think that's why Mr. Ard said what he did. I mean, you know, twice I've listened to Mr. Childers make comments kind of like, hey, you know, I don't know if I want to call it a threat, but I mean, he can pull his business out now. I mean, he's already saying he's got employees that are not happy. I don't believe that they're not 100% happy because of the city. I'm not going to believe that solely.
Christie, suppose we were dealing with Huntsville talking about annexation, and Huntsville came in and said they were going to let go all of our employees. You think our employees would be happy?
I just said solely, I don't believe that answer. So we're talking about this subject here. I've at least listened for 4 years to know that's not solely true, and I didn't insinuate that it was 100% true. I just listened to him. I'm just saying, I know we need a solution to this, and you heard me state, if it needs to come out, then it needs to come out. But I appreciate his good faith offer of $25,000. But we all know if he goes out of business financially because he can't manage his business and his money, he surely ain't gonna have $25,000 to give us.
If he goes out of business, it'll be more about our ordinances than it will be about his business practices.
All right, Herman, let's do this, if you don't mind, if you could look at some other options. I assume we could come up with a contract of, I don't know, whatever you think, I don't know. Maybe John has some ideas financially, what we
We'll
could do, I
look
don't know.
at it, but we're gonna have to have, you must understand, we gotta have.
Well, if our ordinance is keeping Mr. Childers from doing his job, then I think Charles should speak up and say what those are. If it's just the bond thing, okay. If there's other things that are keeping him from doing his job, what are those, Charles?
I gave you a list of about 24
Goodbye.
of those when the whole thing was passed. You should have made notes when I called them up
Well,
at that point.
All right, we'll look at the options, and we'll.
Oh, and those have been duly noted, and the council approved this current ordinance. So if we need to make amendment to it, let's do that.
Well, Paige just listed two of
I
them.
think what we're talking about today is the bond.
They're related to the bond, so that would have to change. All right, Herman's gonna,
Can you get your attorney, if that's, or at least have him say, it's okay for Herman to talk to Mr. Stewart, or have him, I'd like to do it over the phone if possible.
Sure.
Sure. And, of course, the fire people, so we can hear it, and let's just see what our options are, and then we'll report back to the council, let the council decide, get your input, and then decide what they want to do.
okay, thank you,
At least
Herman.
we need to, at least we'll give them the options, give them some options to choose from.
Okay.
All right, let's
Does
do
that sound good with Ms. Hill, Mr. Ard?
That sounds good.
Mr. Ard?
Yes, I'm good with that.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
thank you, sorry, David.
Thank you, Herman.
All right, any other business? Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you.